Man Talk. What kind of name is that? Man talking about what? Well, all is about to become clear. Hello, dear listener, wherever you are. Maybe you're driving your car or sitting on a bus or a train or even a plane. Or maybe you're walking alone with earbuds in your ear. Or maybe you're with the dog, running, jogging, or at the gym. Maybe you're in the shed or in your man cave. Or hopefully you're sitting comfortably in your favourite chair at home with a glass of something pleasant. If so, l'chaim, cheers, and welcome to Man Talk. It's a podcast of real conversations about life. Not just my life, that would be, well, a tad self-indulgent, but your life, men's lives, and in particular, would you believe, the emotional well-being of men, where I sit in a studio and chat to you and possibly to myself if no one's actually listening, and occasionally with a guest or three. My name is Howard Todd-Collins. I'm a man, a psychotherapist, a coach in private practice, and founder and host of Man Talk. Who is this bloke, I hear you ask? What on earth is he going to be talking about and why? Well, sit back, relax, and join me for this very first episode of Man Talk. Hello. Welcome and thank you for joining me for this very first episode of Man Talk. I'm happy that you're here. I'm even more happy that I'm here. It's taken me 2 or 3 years for the podcast to get up and running for a whole host of reasons, which I won't bore you completely with, but part of which is procrastination. And the other one is the pandemic. Everything just slowed itself down in terms of getting some of these new projects off the ground. This very first episode will explain to you a little bit more about the why and the who and the what is Man Talk all about. The simpler reason why I'm doing it in terms of why is that I believe in general men still need to talk much more about their emotional health and their mental well-being. The serious part of it, of course, the most alarming part, is that the statistics still pointing to the fact that men have a higher rate of suicide and we are still less likely to reach out for support compared to women. In fact, according to the World Health Organization, in the UK, for example, suicide is still the biggest killer of men under the age of 45. In other countries, compared to women, men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide here in Australia and 3.5 times more likely in America. So why am I doing this? Well, I have my own story, which I will share briefly later in the episode. But most significantly, I think men are notorious for our perceived lack of emotional openness and our willingness to talk about our lives, which I think greatly impacts on our relationships, our careers, our friendships, our families, and of course, our overall health and well-being. So I'm inviting men like you, blokes, geezers of all shapes and sizes, to connect and become part of this Man Talk community. We'll be presenting, hopefully, some illuminating and some honest insights regarding men's experiences of life. We'll be covering a variety of topics, from relationships to friendships to stress to career to family to success and to failure to communicating better in our relationships, to build more intimacy in our relationships, to know how to increase our emotional intelligence and get to know yourself much better, and much, much more. We're going to reflect on some real life issues. I will present some tools and tips and, most importantly, raise some awareness, hopefully to help men like you and me to navigate life much more successfully. A man's identity is often based on the ability to protect and provide, to care about others, to find solutions and fix problems. It sort of defines who we are, and I honour that in myself and in you as our foundation, our strength. And frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. But is it all of who we are? What happens when we become overwhelmed and get stuck? or we suck it up and toughen up and try and find the solutions on our own? How do we prevent ourselves from becoming too disconnected from the people we love or from ourselves? How do we stop being too hard on ourselves if we are struggling to succeed or be happy? Man Talk is inspired by the countless number of blokes, maybe like you and certainly like me, who have been stuck and done nothing for some time, but who have found the inspiration and the tools to take action and live a meaningful life through their strength, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And these are the men who maybe have been withholding serious conversations they fear having because they're scared of being judged. These are men who are immensely successful in their businesses or their professional lives, but struggle with communicating in their personal relationships. These are the blokes in blue-collar industries who are working long, physically exhausting, shift-working hours just to get ahead, but who are slowly burning out with little energy or time to give back to his relationship or his family. These are the guys who are high achievers, but maybe have unreasonable expectations of himself when it comes to juggling work, relationships, parenting, family, getting ahead with financial success, and just can't quite carry the weight of it all on his broad shoulders. These are the men who maybe are avoiding or dismissing their emotions, particularly the negative ones, because well, that's just what men do. Or the blokes who are trying to be the best fathers they can be, but are scared to lose their freedom or seeing themselves disconnected in their relationship, who are buckling under the stress and strains of being a parent. These are men who have reached their midlife crisis often before midlife, who are unhappy and who have frozen their needs and their desires. These are the guys who experience rejection in their relationships with their loved ones, but are scared or don't know how to speak up. And these are the men who have found the courage to show up, speak up, and negotiate their needs with the grace and skill of a centre-half forward. I believe the man looking after his emotional health has huge, wide-ranging benefits to the relationship he has with himself, with his partner, with his kids, his friends, his family, and his community. But who is this bloke, I hear you ask? Who am I to speak about all these things? As a young bloke, I grew up in a warm, loving, middle-class family in Manchester, northwest England, with my mum and dad and my twin brother and older sister. If you listen carefully, you can still hear the occasional Manchester word, here or there. The accent has been well hidden for the last 30 or so years. I'm part of a double act with my twin brother. We did everything together up until around the age of 15. We were in the same class at school. We captained and co-captained the sports teams. We were head boy and deputy head boy. I was the head boy. Shared the same social circles, same friendships. We were known as the twins, sometimes the terrible twins. I was very competitive, not just with my brother, but pretty much everybody. I wanted to be liked, to be the best at sport, the cleverest, the strongest, the most popular, the most good-looking. I wanted to be the most famous footballer in the world or the most famous singer in the world. But sadly, none of that came true, although entering my 60th year, I still hold some hope. At 15, I didn't know myself, and who at 15 does? But secretly, because nobody knew, I didn't like who I was, even at that age. As I moved into my 20s, I was pretty much lost in terms of study or career. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and felt the pressure to decide. I did know I wasn't going to be a doctor, an accountant, or a lawyer. I did study business for about 5 minutes. I did, though, study to be a chef, which was great fun, lots of free food, plenty of drink, and indeed happy, happy days. As a young bloke, I was a great listener, a pleaser, a loyal, kind, amiable, and affable man. But I had this nagging sense that I just wasn't quite good enough, and these thoughts kept cropping up, and I kept pushing them down. I became really good at something. I became the master at pretending that all was good, that I didn't need anybody and that I'll be right. And it worked, so I thought. I had some good friends and a great social life. I was stoic, enigmatic, and always polite and respectful. Any negative thoughts I had, I would just suck it up, sort it out on the football field, toughen up, and make sure other people were happy, and I would be a good man. I found lots of ways to escape, into alcohol, into drugs, into eating lots of food, where I would numb the feelings, I would forget my worries, and my anxiety and depression, all of which were undiagnosed, were soothed in the haze of a cloudy mind. This was me throughout most of my 20s, and then something happened that changed my life. It's Saturday, September the 28th, 1991, and I'm 28 years old. I'm with the most beautiful woman I have ever met, sitting on top of a mountain overlooking the most amazing view, watching an astonishing sunrise in the northern part of Israel. My heart is jumping out of my body. I found my best friend and my lover and my future wife, and I feel loved and accepted for who I am. Almost a year later, at the age of 29, we arrive in Melbourne, Australia to begin a new life. But I'm a man at that time feeling really tired of just being stoic and practical. When I'm most vulnerable and insecure, I go silent and hide in the spliff or the pub or the man cave. I have these recurring thoughts that I'm just not good enough, go into self-judgment and again begin to escape. However, this time it was different because I knew it was time to change, and I began the hunt for ways to feel better. I jump into personal development groups, to men's groups, my own therapy. I learn how to meditate, and I begin to study my Masters of Counseling and Psychotherapy at university and seek to understand the complexities of the human mind and begin to build a career. But first and foremost, I'm a bloke, a partner, a friend, a father, a brother. I'm a counselor, I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm a coach. But I believe that my and your sense of self, of purpose, of happiness, confidence, of success is not dependent on who you are with or where you are in the world, or even how much money you have or how you compare yourself to others. It is dependent on how you process your thoughts, your feelings, your values, your goals, your actions, your behaviors, and ultimately the relationship you have with yourself. And you can do this by shifting any of your negative or limiting beliefs that just get in the way of your own acceptance, your own self-care, and your own courage to live by your own values, to provide and protect the people you love and care about, by looking after yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. So what is Man Talk? Man Talk is about men showing up in the world with less rigid and limiting beliefs, and to become more flexible and more grounded, and certainly not to escape and hide so much. In my life, I've been lucky enough to have found good people, men and women, who have helped me along the way. And I believe that with the right people, creating the right environment and the right structure, men who do get stuck will discover how to engage and participate and own their own self-development. It's the conversations that contain curiosity, conjecture, and challenge where men connect in real discussions to share, to learn, to change, but not in isolation. Man Talk is a personal development platform for men. It's a website, it's a blog, there are videos, there's a Facebook page, there's a Facebook group, there's a whole social media environment, including an academy of workshops and courses, and of course the podcast, providing men with the tools and the skills to live a rich, fulfilling, and meaningful life. In this first episode, I've introduced you to the why, the who, and the what is Men Talk. In this podcast, I'm here to promote reflection, discussion, and participation. I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts on the podcast or future topics and how Men Talk can serve you. You can reach out to me by emailing me at hello@mantalk.com.au, or you can follow me on Instagram at mantalkwithhoward. These details are in the show notes. And please give me a review wherever you found this podcast. And lastly, if you like what you hear, tell your mates. Thanks for listening. Catch you again in the next episode of Men Talk.